Have you ever stopped to wonder what separates an app you absolutely love from one that just makes you want to chuck your phone across the room? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the secret process that makes some tech feel like pure magic, while other stuff just makes you want to scream.
Come on, we have all been there. You're tapping away furiously, just trying to find a simple button, thinking, why? Why on earth would they design it this way? It's this universal feeling of frustration, and it can really make you feel like you're the one who's doing something wrong. But here's the thing you have to know. It is 100% not your fault. It's a failure of design. And understanding that failure is really the first step to seeing what makes great design work so well. So that feeling of frustration, it actually comes from a really basic mismatch, like a breakdown in communication between your brain and the way the app was built. It all comes down to a clash between two things: your mental model and the app's conceptual model. See, your mental model is just your own personal belief about how something should work. It's that gut feeling. It's like when you walk up to a door and you expect to pull it, but it's actually a push door. The conceptual model, on the other hand, is the designer's blueprint, how the thing actually works. And when those two don't line up, bam, confusion. So the entire job of a great designer is to bridge that gap, to make their plan, their conceptual model, so incredibly intuitive that it just becomes your mental model, without you even thinking about it. And there's a whole philosophy dedicated to doing just that. The solution is this really powerful approach called user-centered design, or UCD for short, and it basically flips the whole old way of thinking on its head. Instead of asking us, the users, to adapt to the technology, it demands that the technology adapt to us. And this isn't just some nice-sounding idea, okay? It's a globally recognized process. The official standard basically says it's all about making systems work for the actual people who are going to use them by focusing on their needs right from day one. This whole philosophy really boils down to three core principles. Number one, you have to get obsessed with your users and what they're trying to do, right from the very beginning. Two, don't guess what works, actually measure it. Test your ideas on real people. And three, my favorite, iterative design. Build a version, test it, learn from what's broken, and then do it all over again. This idea perfectly captures the spirit of user-centered design. I mean, Steve Jobs famously said it best. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works. It's not just about being pretty, it's about creating something that works beautifully because you actually understand the person who's using it. Okay, so how do designers get that deep understanding? Well, the first phase is basically detective work. Seriously, let's imagine we're building a brand new app, we'll call it Plant Pal, for people who love plants. Before we even think about colors or buttons, we have to go investigate who our future users really are. And these design detectives, they have a whole toolkit for gathering clues. Interviews help you get the personal stories, the why behind what people want. Surveys give you the hard data, the how many. But honestly, the secret weapon is often just simple observation. Because watching what people actually do, not what they say they do, well, that's where you find the real truth. Now, all of this detective work, it serves one main purpose: to protect the user's most precious resource, their mental energy. And to do that, designers have to get familiar with a concept from psychology called cognitive load theory. Okay, think of your brain like it has a budget for attention. A certain amount of that budget has to be spent just understanding the task itself. But any energy you waste trying to figure out a confusing layout or a weirdly worded button, that's called extraneous cognitive load. It's the useless mental work. And a designer's job is to hunt that down and get rid of it. So once the designers have their clues and they understand the user, they can finally start building. But, and this might surprise you, they don't jump straight into code. Nope. They start with the simplest tools you can imagine: a pen and a piece of paper. This is where prototyping comes in, and it usually happens in two stages. First, you start with what's called a low-fidelity prototype. Think quick, cheap, messy sketches. Because they look so rough, people aren't afraid to be brutally honest and give you critical feedback. It's only after you've nailed down the big ideas that you move on to high-fidelity mock-ups that look and feel like the final thing. So for our Plant Pal app, we would literally just sketch the main screens on paper, put them in front of a user, and have them pretend to tap through it. It sounds silly, but this simple test can uncover massive flaws in your core idea in like minutes, and it saves you weeks of wasted coding down the line. Right. So every design, no matter how amazing it seems in your head,
is really just a hypothesis. It's an educated guess. And the only way to find out if your guess is any good is to test it. One of the fastest ways to do this is something called a heuristic evaluation. You can think of it like an expert inspection. Designers use a checklist of proven design rules to spot common problems. Things like, is it clear what's happening on screen? Can a user easily undo a mistake? Does the app use words that make sense in the real world? It's a quick sanity check that catches a ton of obvious flaws. And this testing can get super specific, right down to the actual science of where you place a button. There's this principle called Fitz's law, which proves that the time it takes you to hit a button depends on how big it is and how far away it is. It's why big, nearby buttons are just faster and easier to use. It's not just a matter of opinion, it's practically physics. So, after all this detective work, all the sketching, and all the testing, what's the real secret that ties it all together? Well, it's not a single step. It's a continuous process, a loop. This right here is the engine of great design, the UCD cycle. You understand the user, you figure out what they need, you design a solution, and then you evaluate it. And then, this is the crucial part. You take everything you just learned from that evaluation and you start the loop all over again. Great design is never really finished. And I promise you, this isn't just some abstract theory. This exact cycle is running constantly behind the scenes at companies like Netflix and Apple. Think about the skip intro button on Netflix. That didn't just pop out of someone's head in a meeting. It came from observing that millions of us were manually fast-forwarding. That's the cycle right there in action. So when you boil it all down, what's the one true secret ingredient in this whole process? It's not the code. It's not the fancy graphics. It's empathy. It's the ability to genuinely feel the frustrations and understand the needs of the person on the other side of that screen. So the next time you open an app and it just works, it feels effortless, totally intuitive, like it's reading your mind, just take a second, appreciate all the invisible work that made it feel that way, and ask yourself, what problem did some designer, through empathy and testing, solve for me before I even knew I had it? That is the secret to great design.